Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I want us to go ahead and get started. We've got a great program today, and it's so wonderful to see all of you here and having such a good time. But we want to make sure that we give our Secretary of State the opportunity to spend as much time with us as he wants to have, and so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Brenda Payne, the CEO here at the Hendersonville Area Chamber of Commerce. We are so happy to have all of you here at our August 5th luncheon. It's a great time to be in Hendersonville and a great time to be in the state of Tennessee. And with that, I want to remind all of you, if you have not voted yet, and I suspect, as Governor Haslam said this morning when he stopped by Hendersonville City Hall, that most of the people in this room probably have already voted, because you are the kinds of folks who are interested in what's going on in our political process. But if for some reason you haven't voted yet, August the 7th, which is Thursday, is our election day. It is a very important election for us. All of our elections are important. This is particularly important for us. We have state legislative races on the ballot, we have county commission races on the ballot, and we have school board races on the ballot. All of those positions affect us so much, and so it's important that you get out and make your vote known. Another thing that Governor Haslam asked us to do today was to call 5 of your friends and make sure that they vote as well. If you know people that you want to make sure get to the ballot box, make sure that they're all invited to come and be a part of that. So with that, I want to ask Charles Alexander, who is the director of the Tennessee Small Business Development Center at Volunteer State Community College, to come and give our invocation and pledge. Would you please help me welcome Charles Alexander?
Would everybody please stand? All right, let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you today so thankful for the opportunity to meet and greet with each other, a chance to sit down and have conversations, and to be able to have a business in our community like we do today. And God, we ask you to continue to forgive us where we fall so short, where we don't treat each other with the respect that you've asked us to, where we don't love one another, where we don't call your name, where we don't tell others about who you are. And God, we ask you to watch over those today that are sick, that are unable to worship freely. We ask you to watch over those that don't know you. And God, we ask you to help us to find ways to reach out to these people and to let them know that you live and that you died for our sins. God, we ask you to bless our speaker today, and we ask you to bless this food and nourish our body. In your name we pray. Amen. Everybody face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Charles. Before I invite Gina Scott up to the podium, I want to take this opportunity to also thank all of you. Last month at our luncheon, we talked about Stuff the Bus for United Way. And this year, the Hendersonville Chamber and businesses down in this area blew the top out of that program. And so I think all of you are to be congratulated for making sure that all these little kiddies get back to school with all of the things that they need so that they have a great start to a school year. It's now my great pleasure to introduce my really good friend Gina Scott to the podium. Gina is the chair of the Hendersonville Chamber this year. She is with Pinnacle Financial Partners, and she has been a great friend to me. So would you all please welcome Gina Scott.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to draw your attention, first of all, to the backdrop here with all of the names of the new members since in July, all of July. Isn't that amazing? That's a lot of folks. We're real excited about that. Also wanted to recognize our elected officials that are present today. So if you guys would all stand and introduce yourselves, please. Thank you, all elected officials. Thank you. Great.
And I'm going to register things. Harlan Cunningham, Walkerton, Ward 3, City of Hendersonville.
Anthony Holt, County Executive. Farrell Harris,
Thank you all very much for coming. Now I would like to introduce our chair-elect, Mike Inkervaya, who is going to introduce our speaker. Mike is the president of Novita Technologies. Thank you.
So it's my pleasure to introduce our Secretary of State, Tre Hargett. A little bit about Tre. He was elected by the Tennessee General Assembly to serve as Tennessee's 37th Secretary of State in 2009. A native of Ripley, Tennessee, Secretary Hargett now lives in Hendersonville here with his wife, Dawn, and their 2 sons. Secretary Hargett is the Chief Executive Officer of the Department of the State with oversight of nearly 400 employees and also serves on 15 boards and commissions at this time. Since elected Secretary of State, he has made it his priority to increase transparency in state government by working with his colleagues in making the proceedings of numerous boards and commissions more accessible to the public. Previously, he served as chairman of the Tennessee Regulatory Authority. Prior to joining that group, he was regional vice president for a publicly traded emergency services provider. Secretary Hargett also served for 10 years in the Tennessee House of Representatives, during which time he was twice elected Republican leader by his colleagues. Secretary Hargett sponsored or co-sponsored numerous bills over the course of his service. He earned his bachelor's in accounting with honors from Memphis State and his MBA from the University of Memphis. So please join me in welcoming Secretary Hargett.
Thanks, Mike. Every time I hear an introduction like that, I always glean something new from it. Today, the word was transparency. And what I found ironic about that today was whenever the newspaper asked me what I was, and several of you asked me what I was going to be talking about today, and I said, I don't know yet, and if I did, I'm not going to tell you. So it didn't sound very transparent to me there. I did see Representative Terry Lynn Weaver walk in just a moment ago, so good to have you with us. You didn't make the introductions, want to do that for you. And also I saw Mayor Foster come in. Last time I saw Mayor Foster, he was passing me at a 10K somewhere. It's the first time I've seen him since, so great to see you today. Just a few words. Brent, I really appreciate the message you gave about getting people out to vote. You know, one thing I take very seriously as Secretary of State is that I think regardless if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever you are, I just want you to go vote. I know I'm not the first person to say it, I'm not the first 10 million people to say it, is that when you don't vote, you give up your license to complain. And so, go and cast your vote. We have really pushed early voting this year. We have the longest ballot in our state's history. General Summers, I know your tenure in state government, you've seen a lot of long ballots over the years. And we estimate, so those of you who have early voted can testify to this, is that it's going to take somewhere between 5 and 8 minutes to vote. You start doing the math, it's a 12-hour day. You have a limited number of election machines there during the day, obviously. We think it's going to take a long time to get the results that evening. We think it could be well after midnight before we know some of the results in some of our counties around the state. In Shelby County, they have the longest ballot in our state's history. One election vendor said it was the longest ballot he'd ever seen in his career. So it could be a really long evening. If I could encourage you, I know that we're all out there doing our things. We've got families and businesses we're trying to run. If you don't have to go vote at 7 a.m. in the morning, don't go vote at 7 a.m. in the morning. If you have the opportunity to pick up an off-peak time during the day, don't go at 7 a.m., don't go at lunch, don't go at 5. If you have the opportunity, if you work perhaps close to your polling station and you can get over there, say at 2 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon, I will tell you, having stood outside, and Senator Hale and Representative Lambert, Representative Weaver and others who worked at polling station can appreciate this, having stood outside holding up a sign asking people to vote for you for 12 hours straight, I can tell you there's no worse time to be standing at the polls than between 2 and 4 in the afternoon on Election Day, because nobody is there. It looks like a ghost town. And so everybody rushes out there at 7 o'clock in the morning on their way into work, and then it's really busy from about 7 to 9, then everybody comes right after work. If you want to hit it at the off-peak time and avoid the lines, middle of the afternoon is the best time to do that. So a lot of people ask me, still, even after almost 6 years in office, and by the way, has anybody in this room heard me speak before? Raise your hand if you have. Bless your hearts. I know the food is really good, but you are a glutton for punishment if you came back to hear me again. So, but you know, people ask me, so what do you do? And I want to tell this story. A while back, it's been a couple of years ago, we had a young lady from a newspaper in Murfreesboro who called and had some questions about election law. And our communications director said, well, you know, do you want to handle it, or do you want the coordinator of elections to handle it? The coordinator of elections works for me. And so he called her back and said, well, the secretary would be glad to talk to you. How's 2 o'clock this afternoon? She says, no, thanks. I really prefer not to talk to a secretary. If you could just put me in touch with the person in charge. So with that said, most people have no idea what the Secretary of State does. I'm going to kind of give you, it took a couple of you a minute to just catch that, didn't it? You know, I thought a little self-deprecating humor might go a long way here at lunch, and it just took a second. So with that said, you know, we handle a lot of different things. I serve on about 15 different boards and commissions, you know, that touch all aspects of state government, whether it's a state building commission. Every time the state gets ready to buy property, lease property, renovate, you know, its buildings, build new buildings, that comes before a committee that I serve on, along with the governor and 5 other members of that body. I'm the constitutionally elected officer that oversees elections, oversees libraries, charitable solicitation, gaming, administrative hearings. Just to name a few things, we have about 302 employees on the payroll today. When I first took over a few years ago, 5.5 years ago, we had 445 funded positions and 375 employees. We're doing what we do now with 70 less employees than what we had when I first took office. One of the things that I have really taken the challenge to do, that we've been talking about since day one, is trying to create the type of state government that really reflects how you would run your business. Now, state government's not a business, okay? There's a lot of things, frankly, that if somebody could make $1 doing it, they'd open a business to go do it instead of having the state government do it. But there are things that government has to do, and we can do it with business-like principles. And there's a couple of things I want to talk about. You hear me talk about how we do that financially later on. But one of the most important things that you face each and every day in what you do is your customer. You know, try having a business without a customer. How long is that going to last? Well, the difference for us as state government is we know we have a built-in group of customers. That doesn't mean we should treat those customers any differently. You know, we have to make sure that we give them value for each and everything we do, day in and day out, to try and make sure that we can best provide value. Because as long as I've served in state government, I've yet to have anybody call and say, I love that hold music, put me back on there. Nobody ever does that. Nobody ever, as nice as we are and with the sparkling personalities that we have in the Department of State, I've yet to have anybody come to our offices on the 6th, 7th, 8th floor at the state capitol and bring their sack lunch with them and say, you guys take your time, I'm just going to stay a while. No, you know, people come to state government to get something done. They want it to do it for the least amount of money. They want us to be courteous and competent when they do it. And then you want us to get the heck out of your way so you can go about spending time with your families, running your businesses, spending other time, you know, do whatever is important to you. So it's up to us to make sure we handle those transactions in an efficient and effective fashion and give you what you need. So let me just talk about a few different things. I saw some CPAs in the back of the room. My apologies to anybody who's a CPA, an attorney, for having to see my face on our website repeatedly over and over and over. You know, we handle well into the 6 figures of transactions each and every year, whether it's people who are forming their businesses, filing annual reports. You know, we have about 60 plus employees who handle those transactions on a detail-oriented basis day in and day out. Somebody heard me tell this story the other day. I'll talk about it again. is for a long time in state government, in my opinion, and in our office as well, is I'll go back to the customer. We treat the customer as if you existed for our benefit instead of the way around. I used to randomly call phone numbers around the office just to see how people answer the phone. A couple of you have heard me tell this story before, is that I would just want to see how people answer the phone, because that is our lifeline. That is our connection to all Tennesseans out there. In fact, when somebody calls us, it may be the only time they talk to a state employee all year long, unless you get pulled over by Tennessee Highway Patrol, in which case, if you'll take one of those brochures that's on the table over here and give that to THP, they add 5 miles per hour to your speeding ticket, okay? So just forewarn you, if you say you know me, that's what's going to happen to you. But I randomly called phone numbers, and I was amazed at how people responded sometimes. Sometimes it was angry, sometimes it was asleep. Thank you for being so quick on that over there. By the way, when I was a teenager, they called that prank phone calling. Now I call that management. And so, that's the first impression that a lot of people have of our office. And somebody answered the phone one day. It really hit me hard not long after I'd been in office, and they said, "Hello?" And I said, "What? Hey, did I catch you at a bad time?" They said, "Well, I'm trying to work." I said, "Well, this is your work. We have a phone on your desk for a reason. Customers are calling you. It's up to you to make sure that you help them handle that transaction, as efficiently, effectively as possible." And then something else that we did was we no longer have in our vocabulary in the Secretary of State's office, "That's not my job." Whenever, and I know the governor was here earlier today, and I appreciate the fact that you paid to come to the Chamber of Commerce today and hear me, and that y'all went to him, some of y'all went to see him for free. So, the governor's a great guy. I think he's doing a fantastic job. But most people, when they think of state government, they don't think about the silos of the Secretary of State's office and the Attorney General's office and the Department of Revenue. Some people probably prefer not to think about the Department of Revenue, frankly, and Department of Agriculture and Children's Services on down the line. You tend to think of, really truthfully, despite the fact I work for Representative Weaver, Representative Lambert, and Senator Hale, the legislators, they elect me every 4 years. Hopefully they'll continue to, hint, hint. And thank you, Farrell. William didn't laugh at that. I'm getting kind of concerned. But people tend to think about state government. They think of Bill Haslam standing in the middle of a football field, and whenever a phone call comes in, you really think that we're all coordinated. You really think that we ought to be able to answer any question. You think that, almost like, Bill Haslam standing in the middle of the field pointing out who's going to answer these questions, who's going to help the customer. Well, used to, whenever somebody would call us about a Department of Revenue issue in our office, we'd say, "That's really not us. We don't do that. Thank you." And we hang up the phone. And I'd say, "Well, why can't we just take a couple of extra questions and see if we can help them in some way and get them to the right place?" Probably no different than county and city government have to do at times. Whenever you get your employees to try and say, "Hey, that's really not us. That's the city, but here's who can help you. If you'll call so-and-so over there, or maybe, if we can help that transaction occur." We're all about trying to help that end user, the taxpayer of Tennessee, get to where they want to be, accomplish what they need to accomplish, because we have the privilege of working for them on a daily basis. We do in our business services division. One of the greatest compliments I've had since I've taken office is I was down speaking to the NFIB in Memphis last year, and somebody shared with me, says, I had an opportunity to call Secretary of State's office about 10 years ago, and then I had to call y'all again. And I was so dreading the call because of the experience I'd had 10 years prior. And then he said, I was convinced it was a totally new department when I called this time. That's really not about me. That's really about helping our employees understand who they work for, giving them context day in and day out for what they do. Each and every one of us in our different organizations have really mundane things we have to do from time to time. But those mundane things we do add value in some way. They have a customer in some way. I don't know anybody that likes paying the bills of an organization, but it's a fundamental piece of what you do. Well, what happens when you don't pay the bills? Eventually, you go out of business. If you have somebody in our organization who's not involved in doing those detail-oriented things, but you don't explain to them why they're doing those things, they don't understand the value they're adding to an organization. As leaders of organizations, we have to make sure that day in and day out that people at all levels of our organizations understand the value that each and every one of them bring. And folks, let me tell you, I go back to my phone example. The people who answer the phone, I recognize, can make or break us day in and day out. They're on the front lines. And gone are the days where you put the worst employees you have on the phone. We take our best employees and put them on the phone because those are the ones we know you need the most help from. We want to make sure we take our best and brightest and put them where they're interacting with the customer day in and day out, and help them serve as models for what others in our organization can be. Let me talk about elections just a few minutes here. I talked about the value of going to vote, and just 2 years ago, we had a couple of state house races where 5 votes or less made a difference in the Republican primary. I want to encourage you to please get out and vote, but also tell you some of the things we're doing to make sure that we instill integrity in the election process. And some of you have read about these things. Some of you have heard me talk about them before. I want to make sure that everybody in this room has the opportunity to know that their vote's not being canceled out by somebody who's voting illegally. We work with district attorneys around the state to make sure that convicted felons who have not had voters' rights restored are not voting illegally. Down in West Tennessee, one DA alone's got almost 40 voter fraud convictions. We work with other states as well to compare voters' rolls to make sure that somebody's not voting in Kentucky and Tennessee at the same time. Whether you're for Barack Obama or Mitt Romney, you shouldn't be able to vote for them twice. We're working now with the new photo ID law, and some people have talked about that being a Democrat-opposed initiative and a Republican-proposed initiative. Let me tell you, that issue polls at over 80% support throughout the state. Now, this is a pretty red state nowadays, okay? It's not 80% red. Okay, that tells you that voter integrity is not a partisan issue. Voter integrity is an issue where we just want to know that our vote's not being canceled out by somebody voting illegally. There is a group of people who I want to disenfranchise from voting. It's true confessions time. If you are voting illegally, if you're not eligible to vote in Tennessee, you don't live here, you haven't had your voter's rights restored, what have you, you ought not be able to vote. Because whenever you find out that somebody voted illegally, what you tend to believe, I think, whenever I tell a story, I always think back to like the $100 hammers the Pentagon was buying a few years ago. Whenever you hear about those stories, you tend to think, well, that's just the one we know about. And so whenever you hear about somebody who voted illegally, you start thinking, that's the one we know about. How about all the ones who didn't? Regardless, you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, I want you to go vote. If you're an eligible voter, I want you to exercise that right to vote, and we owe it to you to make sure we have a good, fair, and honest election process so these men and women who are running for office, who are hoping to serve us at different levels of local, state, and federal government, can know that the elections we run met the highest test of integrity. They are honest, and when it was all over, whether your person won or lost, you can believe we count every vote once, no more, and no less. And that's how we run our office, not just in elections. We want to be fair and honest in everything we do. Finally, let me just talk to you a little bit about why I believe this community and the state of Tennessee is so poised for success. I know there are a lot of great stories that have occurred over the last 4 years or 3+ years under Governor Haslam, and the things that the Treasurer and the Comptroller and the legislature and all of us have been doing to set the table for success. Is what we're doing is trying to make sure that Tennessee is a place where we keep the rule and regulatory burden low. I know that sounds real sexy, doesn't it? Okay? But what that means is what a CEO will tell you, and you could ask the folks from Moretta this, and it's why they have now left Maryland, is that the more legal and regulatory burden you put on a business out there, and you keep moving the goalpost on, if I can borrow a football analogy, if you keep moving the goalpost on them, eventually the business will say, I can't handle an environment that's unstable. I want to go somewhere where somebody's not going to try and change the rules of the game on me every time I turn around. That's why we're attracting businesses here. And that's one of the great reasons we are. The other reasons is we know we don't have a state income tax. We don't have a state tax on earned income. We have one on investment income. You're going to have the opportunity in November to pass a constitutional amendment whether or not you want to constitutionally prohibit a state income tax. We keep taxes low. If you look at the state taxes per capita, we're among the lowest in the nation, among the bottom 5, depending on the rankings you look at, about how much we tax people. What does that mean? It means that whenever people want to start a business somewhere, they come look to Tennessee because they know they get to keep more of what they earn when they come to Tennessee. And also, unlike our colleagues in government who serve in Washington, D.C., we are not mortgaging your family's future to pay for today's bills in state government. We are one of the least indebted states in the country. I have the opportunity each year to go and visit with the credit rating agencies in New York, Standard & Poor's, Fitch's, and Moody's. We have the highest credit rating possible with Fitch's and Moody's. We have the next highest one possible with Standard & Poor's. And why is that? Because we live within our means. We don't go borrow money to pay for today's expenses. You know, unlike most states, we don't borrow money to pay for our roads. We pay for them our gas tax and pay as we go. We run our state in a very fiscally conservative fashion. In fact, one new business opened here a couple of years ago that moved from Europe, and we all know about the debt issues that they have in Europe, is they said the kicker for them why they came to Tennessee is when they picked up the paper and they realized that we had so little debt that they knew they didn't have to worry about a tax structure coming in and charging a lot more money in taxes to them to try and pay off the debt of the state. So those are things we're doing to poise Tennessee for success. And how are we living that in the Department of State each and every day? When I took office, my budget was almost $31 million back in 2009. Today, my budget is just a shade over $27 million. And I didn't see a single person reach for their checkbook or their wallet and try and give me money to try and make up that $4 million. In fact, I will tell you we're a better organization we were 4 years ago. I mentioned to you 445 funded positions down to 375 positions. But yet I will tell you, I bet you're getting better service than what you have because we got than what you were getting 6 years ago. We have the right people on the bus who know what an honor it is to serve you each and every day, the privilege we have of serving the Secretary of State's office. And last but not least, I'll tell you this story, how we live that out and how we serve our customers. And a couple of you have heard me say this before. Not long after I took office, I was sitting down with one of our directors, one of the people who reports directly to me and runs one of the divisions over there. And I said, how do you know where you're doing a good job? I just know. And he says, well, I just know. And I said, well, tell me how you know. He said, I just know. And I finally said, there's got to be something you're looking for on a daily, a weekly, a monthly basis, a yearly basis. There's a goal you got to be trying to accomplish that you're measuring yourself against, just like you do in the private sector in your respective organizations and in local government as well. There's got to be something we're striving for. And he said, I know I'm doing a good job when nobody calls and complains. Well, folks, the Chamber of Commerce measures itself by how happy its members are and the new members that come on board and the value you're adding. You don't measure yourself by how many times people come and complain. If you're running an insurance agency, you don't measure yourself by the complaints. You don't measure yourself by the fact you have a desktop computer and paper clips and a pencil and a counter on your desk. You measure yourself by premium that's coming in the door and policies issued. We now measure ourselves by what we produce, not by what we take. And that's what we're about day in and day out, trying to make sure that we are producers, that we give people what we need, that every transaction ought to have a customer, and if it doesn't have a customer, we need to quit doing it. It's about always analyzing how we could do better. And there's so many different ways I could tell you. If you want me to, you can call me tonight, and I'll take 2 or 3 hours and spend some time. We can do that. But there's so many things that we're doing each and every day that you can be proud of. Your state government is setting a new path about what people can expect out of government. And my goal for our office is to be able to be the kind of people that whenever you want somebody good, you hire one of our people. I want to make it hard for them to leave, but I want you to try and hire our people because we are the can-do people of state government. And we're committed to making our organization not the best it can be in state government, but one that private organizations look to, for example, as a success as well. Thanks for your time and courtesy today. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you about our great state, what we're trying to accomplish. And once again, in case you didn't hear me the first 3 times I said it, go vote on Thursday. Thank you very much. How are we doing time? I think we've got time for a couple of questions. Is that what I understand? Or? Okay. I can't promise answers, but I'll take the questions. Well, I'm going to take a couple of minutes in. I will say that I mentioned this earlier. A lot of people don't know this. I have people who say, well, Trey, you must be really close to the governor. The governor's a great guy. You heard me say this earlier. Senator Hale and Representative Lambert, Representative Weaver, they are among the 132 people in the state who can vote for me. We're one of 3 states in the country that elects our Secretary of State from the legislature. So they get tired of the robocalls among the 132 people. You know, when Farrell and William are running, they send out robocalls to tens of thousands of people. I just have to do 132 people, so they get a lot more calls like that. So I appreciate the opportunity to represent you gentlemen on Capitol Hill and Representative Weaver. Where are you? Thank you, ma'am. What a great job you're doing. Thank you for your friendship and the opportunity to serve you and your colleagues. Thank y'all very much.
I want to say, talk about Tre just a moment. His office is always open. And it's not just open to us, to the legislators. It's to anybody that wants to call. He talked about making those phone calls back into his office to see how the phone was answered. You make those calls, and if you don't get satisfaction with whoever answers the phone, they'll get you to him. They'll move you right on up the ladder, and he'll help you. So I just wanted to say that. I appreciate what you're doing. Doing
Thank
a
you
great
very
job.
much. All right.
Thank you. We have just a couple of announcements. We do have a display table, so I'm going to invite Holly Guggenheim with Coupontageous to come up so she can make a quick presentation.
Hi guys. I wouldn't really call it a presentation because I'm not really good at presentations. So basically I talked to a lot of you guys. I'm with Coupontageous. We're a locally owned business here in Hendersonville, and we have free coupons for the community. They're located on our website 24/7. I'm sure many of you have seen the insert and the Tennessean that's in there every Sunday. And we have an email that goes out and things like that as well. So I want to thank you all that are using the coupons. We really appreciate that. Support the local businesses. We all know how important that is. But I'm just going to give away some free advertising. So we have an insert that goes into the Tennessean, and we have some ad space in there. And you don't have to have a coupon in the ad space. So if you have a business that you can't really do a coupon, that's okay. So I'm going to let you pick. Would you pick? All right. Let's see. Olympian Construction, R. Scott Robinson. Yay! It's a $350 value, so come and see me. But thank you guys very much. I'm Holly Guggenheim. Our office is on Saunders Ferry Road. Please feel free to come in and see us anytime, and hopefully we'll see you guys with a $100 giveaway. So have a great day. Thank you.
Couple of announcements of things going on at the Chamber. Leads Exchange does meet at the Chamber office every Wednesday at noon. You do not have to have reservations for that. I do encourage you to attend. August 21st, we'll have our Business After Hours. That's going to be at the Senior Center on Campus Drive from 5 to 7 p.m. Some promotion opportunities for your business. The Taste of Hendersonville. We all love to eat, right? So it will all be set up at the Streets of Indian Lake on September 11th. It's presented by the Goddard School, and you can see Cassie for details on that. We've got some booth space available, obviously some more space for restaurants, and don't want you to miss out on getting your tickets for that as well. Upcoming support opportunities, the staff will host a member update August 14th at the Chamber from 11:30 to 1. That's hosted by Jet's Pizza, so you do get to eat, and you can come and learn how to make the membership work for you. And then, of course, we have a drawing for a gift certificate, and Wendy's got the winner over there, and I probably was supposed to bring that with me. All right, Mark Bentel with the Bank of Tennessee gets a certificate from Signature Cleaners. Thank you so much for being here today, and we hope to see you soon. Don't forget to get out and vote on Thursday. Thank you.